these are some of the companies that are bringing mindfulness into their organizations. Companies like Google, companies like Accenture or McKinsey or RBC. These are not all flaky companies. These are companies with very serious objectives in terms of business results. And yet for them, they see mindfulness as not only just a nice to have in the wellness department to address stress, but actually fundamental to be able to support them in achieving business results. And they do that because of two things. Number one, because they see what's happening in the external reality, and number two, because of what they recognize is happening in the internal reality. To start off with that, we want to look at what's happening in the external reality. And what we see when we go to organizations around the globe, they're characterized by 4 common characteristics. And we'll see if we can test you to see if it's relevant for you here in Toronto. The first characteristic is people feeling under pressure. The second one is being always on. The third is experiencing information overload. And the fourth is distractions. Now, how many of you go 3 for 4 out of those? Yes? How many are going 4 for 4? Let's hear it. Yes, 4 for 4. So this is the paid reality. For those of you who do get paid to go to work, this is what you get paid for, basically. A big package of pressure, always on, information overload, and distractions. Now let me ask you another question. How many of you think that on its own, or maybe by technology, or somehow this paid reality that we're all experiencing, somehow that's just going to naturally get better? There's no optimists in the crowd. Really? Well, then you're probably like me. I realize that this is the reality, and you know what? More than likely, it's probably going to continue to get challenging for all of us. That's the external reality. Now, what we want to do now is look at what's going on in the internal reality. And what we want to specifically focus on is this idea of attention and how it's related to results. For you, how many of you are results important? Show of hands. Yeah. Results are really important. What we know in terms of the link between attention and results, let me ask you another question. How many of you have gotten really good results without paying attention? If you are very lucky, right? The importance of, in terms of what we pay attention to, if things are important to us, there's a direct connection between what we pay attention to and the results that we're able to realize. Now, I've told you all that because the next slide I'm going to show you is a little bit depressing, and I wanted to warn you in advance. What science has been able to show us is that because of the paid reality that we're all experiencing, our ability to pay attention is getting less and less and less. There's some studies out there, we don't show it because it hasn't been totally scientifically validated, but there's studies that suggest our ability to pay attention is getting less than a goldfish. Now, my point is, goldfish don't have performance objectives that I know about, but nevertheless, if you reflect in your own life, think about your own experience, maybe not even for yourself, but also in terms of your colleagues and the people that you work with. So this is the reality that we're experiencing. It's actually called attention deficit trait. And we see this as a real challenge. And if we look at this in terms of what that means from a work perspective, scientists have actually been able to put a number on it. What they suggest is that 53.1% of the time, people are able to maintain focus. In other words, they're results-driven, they're engaged, they're creative, they can be team-oriented and resilient. And this is the number, 46.9% of the time, on average, and I know none of you are average, I get that, so it's other people. But 46.9% of the time, on average, our minds are wandering, which basically means we're distracted, we're inefficient, we're cognitively rigid, we're overwhelmed, we're stressed, and all of those other things.